Remember 1979, the last year I was there. I happened to be in Christchurch at the time, but do you remember an Air New Zealand DC-10 taking off, going down there, and they were doing commercial flights. Hey, go to Antarctica, go see Antarctica. And they would land, of course. They would just fly around, then fly back to Christchurch and land. It was a DC-10. There's usually a ring around this Mount Erebus, so about 3/4, maybe a little bit better up, and it looked kind of like Saturn, and he flew into that. And thinking, just come out the other side. He impaled that DC-10 right into the side of Mount Erebus there, and our squadron of helos had to go up and salvage all the bodies of that DC-10. It was a terrible experience for everybody, and certainly a great loss for Air New Zealand. That was one of the first major accident they ever had. That happened in '79. So my squadron was really instrumental in helping salvage all those people off the side of the hill there for the families. Next one, please. The last two C-130s that crashed Dome Charlie were salvaged that year. I salvaged that first one, and then the second one I salvaged was 319. And 319 it took considerable amount of time. You saw the wings that was burned off. What we had to do is, again, get acclimated. We went to Dome Charlie. We brought in wings. We brought in a center wing section. We brought in some Lockheed Tech reps to help us out. And you're going to see pictures here in a little bit regarding that. Let's see. 129, the other C-130 that crashed up there as well, the one where the nose ski folded up in the fuselage, they had to bring some tech reps into that one. They didn't need our services so much as they needed Lockheed at the time. Lockheed brought their whole team in from Ontario, from Georgia, Marietta, Georgia, and they came down and they had to do some severe rigging. They had to put the thing in a kind of a quasi-jig, if you will. They had stringers they had to replace, frames, the skin, rebuild that nose area where the nose ski folded up. Right, you can see where it folded up right underneath the fuselage there where it would be. And it was just a real mess. It took those guys quite a while, and they did a beautiful job on it too. I don't think I added any pictures of 129, but down the side of the fuselage, you could just look down it and see the skin wrinkled. It just ripped your heart out. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned 319, and what I have now is a series of slides. I'm almost moving a little bit too fast here. I thought I'd time myself a little bit better, but I got a couple of more stories here real quick. But let me go through this slide presentation of, we had a photographer's mate that when he wasn't busy helping me down there, he would take some pictures of the sequence of salvaging this aircraft. So I was fortunate, every one of us got a complete set. So this is the sequence of the repair of 319 here. Next one, please. That was our home. Now, we bet the Seabees, I shouldn't tell you this, case of beer, but we bet the Seabees that we could build our Quonset. We had to build our huts. We had to build our housing before we could even start working. I mean, there was nothing there. It looked like just the rest of that. So we built our huts there before we even had a place to live. And by the way, the Airedales won. We beat the Seabees. It tasted good too. But anyway, so we built all that. That was our city there for Dome Charlie. Next, please. There's downtown. You like that radome there with the C on it, Dome Charlie? Okay. All right. But that's where we lived and ate for a while. We set up generators. The Seabees did a great. Look at that. They put up some wires, and the Seabees did a great job down there for us. We loved them. Somebody's got to. Next one. Isn't that terrible? Doesn't that just rip your heart out? That's what I started with down there. Next one. This was the fun part. I want to hear any whining about digging your driveways out. tried digging out a C-130. We had to first dig it out, and it was just something interesting about the snow down there and about the continent. The Antarctica is less than 3% humidity. Now, for you ski bums, you talk about a place to ski. You talk about powder. It is so fine. Every year, when we deploy back to the United States, we have to tape up all our shocks and move them up on a berm. You know, they're actually on skis. Move them up on a berm so we don't have to dig them out so much when we come back in August and September. Well, if you don't tape them up, you have the finest crack. Your entire shop will be filled with snow. It'll find its way in there, and it's just the finest snow. Oh, it's a bear. You know, just take it, it's just fluff. You skiers just grinning here. But boy, it was a bear to dig out, though. It was just a bear. Next. Well, you can see that over the wing sling. So the first thing you see the fuel bladder down here. Had to take out some fuel too. We got fuel bladders. And the over the wing sling up there is just a marvelous invention. It goes out far enough to take the prop off, and that was developed by Lockheed. And also it supports the engine too. And so that's the first thing we had to do is take the engines and the propellers off. Next one, please. What we had to do is we had to build scaffolding too. We also brought an Army Corps of Engineer guy, an engineer that's pretty sharp. He was a pretty sharp hombre. He was fun to have down there, and he helped us design the rigging and stuff to take off the wings and things like that, and how to best do that job. And he was great to have down there. But before we could move the Herc, we obviously had to take off the other wing, and so we could balance the aircraft back out again. So we jacked it up and then started working on the left wing. Next one, please. Now, isn't that a funny looking picture? Now the engineer said, you know, guys, you don't have to work so high if you dig a trench to put the Herc in. What a novel idea. So what we did is we brought a cat in. We brought a cat in the back of a Herc, and he started digging out a trench for us. But isn't that a goofy picture? Look at that poor Herc. Now we left the inboard engines on for ballast. If you did, it'd just tip over. So we left the inboard engines on for weight. Next one, please. Then we towed it into the trench. Now on the nose ski there's a couple of rings to attach the tug, if you will. It snapped off about 2 or 3 times. But we were able to, of course, repair it, and eventually got it unstuck and got that C-130 moved and towed it into that trench. What a picture, though, huh? Isn't that cool? Next one. The next is we built us a little bit of shelter. Those wimpy electricians want a little bit of heat inside the aircraft, so we covered up. We covered it up and made it a little more comfortable. We had some Herman Nelson. Everybody been in cold areas heard of Herman Nelson heaters, big old heaters. They're gas driven, and it heated up the inside of that C-130, so it was pretty nice and comfy inside. The next thing we had to do is take off the center wing section. So the center wing section had to come off too. Next one, please. Then after we replaced the center wing section, we went to the outboard sections. They had to be reattached. So we used forklift and slings to attach the outboard wing sections again. Next one. Starting to look like an airplane again, isn't it? I'll tell you what, it was pretty brutal down there. It was, at a 14.6, you learn not to work real fast. You know, you sit there and all of a sudden you go, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. You know, and then sitting there going, but it's really fun to watch the people come in and bring in supplies and parts, the load masters and stuff. They're working in the back of the Hercs. They're sitting there hauling stuff off. All of a sudden you see them going, they're going for the oxygen mask in the back of the Herc, you know, to take a couple of hits. But you learn to get acclimated. You know, the whole time I was there, though, for this project here, for quite a few, over a month, I never felt like I ever got acclimated. You know, you always felt short of breath. Next one, please. Oh, now there's a happy bunch. You can see me on the top left up there, second one in. This is the guys that, here's an engineer here that helped us with this huge project. But other machinist mates there and hydraulics and electrical guys. This was the Navy guys there, with the exception of our captain there from the Navy, or from the Army. Next one, please. That was the flight crew that said, we'll try and take it out again. And that was our commander, our CO, Desco there, flight engineers and the co-pilot on the extreme right. Next one. We had to have a bottle of champagne and christen it before we took off, and so he did just that. The next one. Now, if you don't think after working up there and in that extreme environment didn't bring tears to your eyes to see this. Now, of course, they turned to icicles by the time they dropped to the ground, but boy, that was just a beautiful sight to see that thing take off. Next one. You can see still the skins that were replaced and stuff like that on the outside of it. You can see the skis, how they fare up. It's quite a hydraulic nightmare how these things work. It's magic to me. But it's about I don't know if it's logic circuits and stuff like that. But there's several sequences. You can have the tires stick right through the center of the skis, so you can be on wheels, or you can have the skis down, or you can have the wheels up in the well and the skis fared to the fairings, like it is here in flight. So it's 3 sequences there, and it's just a hydraulics nightmare down there in Antarctica. Those guys are always going around with rags. You can imagine down there when the aircraft are at McMurdo, they're sitting, they're shut down. What happens when things get cold? They contract. Then everything starts to leak. If you have the slightest worn seals, the hydraulic actuators leak. Behind the propeller is called a valve housing and a pump assembly. Right behind the propeller, it's all hydraulic. And I have a front seal and an aft seal, and then I have the propeller, and here's the engine. The front seal or the aft seal was constantly leaking on me, and I'd have to pull the propeller off, replace the seals, put it all back together. It might last a couple weeks and be leaking again. Or you send up the aircraft up to New Zealand with a list of discrepancies, you know, these pocket discrepancies. Oh, it checked good, didn't see a problem. And then all of a sudden, as it goes to Christchurch, here's about 20 discrepancies for the guys, for my counterparts up in Christchurch. And they get up there, could not duplicate. Of course, nice temperatures again up in Christchurch, and so. Next one. Now, the folks down at McMurdo, the whole rest of the squadron, the scientists and everybody are watching this aircraft land. They are so excited to see it down. You see it, the skis are down, so it'll be landing at Williefield the Skiway. Cool sight. Next one. Oh, of course, the 3 mechanics that all work, yeah. These are my 2 counterparts here. The guy on the left, Caligieri, is an Italian stud here. He was the cleaner of the squadron. He was you'd see him in a dress every once in a while. He was a strange cat. The guy on the right, to my right there, and quite aviation mechanic. Very sharp, resourceful, just a great guy to be around. He went on to make a career of the Navy as well. Next one, please. And that was, again, the whole crew there. A couple of Lockheed people on this one, too. This guy. That guy with the shades on at the very end was a Lockheed guy from Lockheed, and he was an electrical engineer. You give him a wire number, he knows exactly where it's at in the aircraft. He was the sharpest guy I'd ever been around down there, and he was a great assistance with the electrical wiring. He helped with some of that and rerouting, and things. And because when you take off wings and have to pull wire harnesses out, put things back together, it was quite a task. And so We had a lot of help from Lockheed as well, but that was a good group to work with. Next one, please. I don't want to run out of time here, but real quickly, since VXE6, next one. Hello. I worked construction for about a year and a half to save more money to go back to school. Oh, I was trying to think before anything else. The next 2 years of the squadron were pretty much uneventful, especially after something like that, salvaging aircraft down in Antarctica. With the exception of '79, the last year I was in at DC-10. That was pretty eventful. That took a really toll on my squadron mates as well. I'm trying to think else. The division officer comes up to me and goes, "Morrison, when's it going to take you to re-enlist?" I told him, "Admiral pay, airman duty. I've had just about enough of this pack and sea bag and going to Antarctica." And he goes, "No, really, what's it going to take you to re-enlist?" I told him, "You let me stay in Christchurch for the whole deployment, and I'll re-up a year." And he runs off scratching his head. He comes back about an hour later, shakes the check stand I'm working on. He goes, "Morrison, you going to re-up? You going to let me stay in New Zealand?" He goes, "I'll do the best I can." And I said, "That's good enough." So the whole last deployment, I guess maybe I paid my dues. I got to stay in Christchurch, New Zealand for the whole deployment where we did our heavy maintenance, our inspections on our C-130s. And I was in charge of the engine and propeller shop where we built them up. We had a test cell. And I would write notes on the inside of the cowling of the engines. The women are as warm as the weather. And I'd write all these notes and stuff on the cowlings, and then they'd send them down there. And you should see the nasty grams I got back from Antarctica. They wanted me really bad. And I was quite an instigator down there. I don't know if I should share this. Yeah, one of many initiations down here. You hear the Navy's great for initiations, but you're stripped naked and you're put in a hole, and they cover you with snow. I'll tell you, that's kind of brutal. And a lot of times they strip you naked, throw you in a hole, and just walk away and say, "Dry run." Oh man, no guys, don't do this. And, they're going to do that 2 or 3 times, and then finally cover you with snow, then you're initiated. But there was. I had a great time there, and in Christchurch we had a black chief that I just dearly loved, and he was a Golden Glove in the Navy. He was a boxer. I admired him. Just wonderful to work with too. But I sent him down a black Barbie doll, and old Caligari violated her in the first 5 minutes, I think. But anyway, he goes, "I'm going to do to you what Caligari did to that Barbie doll." But anyway, he never got me down there. My division officer was able to stave off all those nasty grams I did and everything else. But I'll tell you what, it was getting pretty hard. But I got to stay in Christchurch for the whole deployment. If you ever make it to Christchurch, do that. Real quickly, I told somebody here, I'll talk about Christchurch. Absolutely wonderful place to be if you get a chance to visit. Of course, it was under British rule. It still is. For many years, and I love the people. I finally got a whole 3 days. When you're down in Antarctica, when I was on deployment, 12 on, 12 off, 7 days a week. You just don't get time off. And that was my entire deployment was like that forever down there, and including New Zealand, because we kept plenty busy there. But I was finally able to convince the division chief, "Hey, we got everything caught up. Can I have 3 days off? I want to go fishing. I really need a fishing fix." So he let me off, and I got to go. They call it tramping, backpacking, as they call it tramping over there. And they got youth hostels, about a day's walk from each one, so you can, leave food, take food, and just meet people from all over the world there. They don't have any natural predators there. No lions and tigers and bears, not even any snakes there. It's a great place to go backpacking and traveling. But there's a mountain pass. The train goes from one side of the island to the other. And so I took the train. And the conductor goes, "Well, where do you want let off?" I go, "Well, how about right here?" And he goes, "When do you want to get picked up?" Oh, holy cow, this is personal service. And so he drops me off in the middle of the mountain pass, and I met a guy there from Colorado fishing, and it was the best brown trout fishing in the world. I'll tell you what, I caught more browns, and I brought them back to the shop. They were so excited. But you get a chance to go to New Zealand. It is just wonderful. Construction, another thing about the trains, every stop, everybody files off. And there's tea poured and biscuits, the cookies, You just drop your 20-cent piece, everybody slams a tea, eats their biscuit, get on board, you go to the next stop and do the same thing again. They did this all the way across. I just couldn't, I thought that was so quaint. It was so beautiful. I had a great time doing that. But a great place to go. You'll love New Zealand. Construction, I worked a year and a half, and I met the guy Lance underneath when I was in the Navy. But construction, I worked about a year, maybe a year and a quarter to save more money. That whole last year to re-up was actually to save money. You know, I just put it out in an allotment. It all went to the bank except for about $10 a paycheck. I didn't need anything. And saved money to go back to school. And I met Lance. Now I got to tell you about Lance. Lance was one of my best friends in the Navy. He's the one that talked me into working for his dad. I had a job lined up to get out of the Navy and everything. But he convinced me to work construction in Cottonwood, Arizona. Well, all right, I can do that. I'll tell you what, I don't know if you remember the long gas lines. You remember about 1980 and 81. I'll tell you what, construction, of all the time for me to work for construction, I was eating cantaloupes. I was so poor. I was eating cantaloupes because I was trying to save every bit of money to go back to school, work in construction. And construction was almost dying out, but I got odds and end jobs for the general contractor, who is his dad. And I just had a fantastic year eating cantaloupes. I didn't know you could do so much with cantaloupes, but I had a great time there. And Lance is on the way to a construction site. Now I'm going to deviate here just for a second, and I'll go on to the rest of these. But Lance, he said he knew me very well. I've been a good kid, a 4-0 kid all my life. You know, but he goes, "Hey Jim, you know," and he goes, "Well, I want to talk to you about something on the way to a construction site." And he goes, "I want to talk to you about something." And he goes, so we get to his house, and he goes, "Do you know where you're going to go when you die?" I go, "All right, what's up with this guy?" You know, and I've been going to church with him and stuff like that too. But I got to distract him for just a little bit. And I go, "Well, I'm quite sure. I'm a good kid. I think I'm going to go to heaven." He goes, "You want to know for sure?" And that's when I gave my life to Christ. I knelt beside his dad. I accepted, because of Lance, it was the most important decision of my life. And I got to tell you that. But Lance is the one that led me to the Lord, and I just wanted to let you know that, because he was a very important and influential guy in my life. And as most people in here have, you got people that you really depend upon. Lance was one of them. So I owe my life to him. After that, after construction, I attended Northrop University. And you probably, everybody go, "Yeah, where's that, Jim?" It's a, Northrop couldn't find qualified technicians way back when during the war effort to find qualified technicians, so they started their own school. And Northrop University was one of the best aeronautical universities in the country. And my division officer said, "You want to go there, Jim. It's one of the best schools in the country." So I went to Northrop University, and after I got done with that, I right there by LAX, and I took my test. And I passed my A&P and went on, worked at Gates Learjet. Worked there for about five years as an A&P, worked on all the customers' Learjets. Then I went to U.S. Customs, who was I started pushing brooms around the Gates Learjet. It was so slow, and I thought, they have P3s, the same engine that's on the C-130. So I inquired at Customs, they said, "We want you." And so bad guys don't take days off. I don't know if you knew that. These guys, Customs, they work through just every holiday, all the time, 365 days a year. And I worked with an air interdiction squadron who used P3s to track bad guys that come across the border with just, their whole aircraft is full of pot, other drugs, and they would track them coming across the United States. Then as they tracked them, they would have a bus bird come in, and they'd bust them there on the ground. Oh, just scary stuff. These guys, some of the guys, the Customs guys, they look like Pancho Villa. Gun belts on, they go, when you land, you don't know who's down there waiting for you. Really scary stuff. I'll tell you what, these guys are animals. Then I went on with the Forest Service, and it's been a wonderful career with them. I started out as an airworthiness inspector for them, all these air tankers, helicopters, and all that you see putting out forest fires. I do that. And I was inspecting them and bringing them aboard contractually to come work for us. And then I became their aviation safety manager about 5 years ago, and I love it, every aspect of it, because we have a smoke jumping, we do smoke jumping, we still take care of the air tankers, the helicopters, our light fixed wing program that we have. We've got a huge aviation program. We fly over 100,000 hours a year in the Forest Service. I don't know if any of you know that, but everything from bug surveys, all these forest bug kills and stuff like that, we do a lot of that stuff. And then the last one is church, and most important to me. The other stuff gets in my way, but no, it's just as important that the church, I spend a lot of time there. I have a ministry with single moms and widows, and I put teams together, and I go around, and once a month, for as long as the single mom and widow needs us, we are committed to them. We go to their house and do repairs and stuff like that. Just love doing that. That is the best thing in the world for me. That's what I love doing. But that in a nutshell, and I tried, we're almost right on time, but I do, there are some of the McMurdo Times, or whatever they're called. Some of the guys have them here. There are some, they were basically our newspapers from the period. So there's some of them floating around. If you want to look at them, read some articles. I have my cruise books up here, 3 of them, especially the 20 Years from the Ice. Fascinating. Take a look at it. And I got a photo album there with a couple of my mug shots in it, and a piece of the aircraft 319 on a plaque there that was given to me. I was given two the Navy, I think it's the second highest peacetime awards. I was given 2 Navy Achievement Medals when I was in. And one was for salvaging the first aircraft, first C-130 in Antarctica, and doing it under phenomenal odds. But I didn't think I was worthy, but they thought that I was. So I got a Navy Achievement Award for that. And then I also got a Navy Achievement Award for 319 there that was almost totally destroyed there, salvaging it. And so those probably helped me make rank. I got Al's an E5. I love my time in the Navy, and I condone that to anybody that wants to join the Navy. It's, you've always heard the thing, make the best of it wherever you go, and I did. I went to as many schools as I can. I had a wonderful time. But let's see, next slide. Is there anything else? I think there was a couple more, maybe. Let's see. No, that was it. So any questions about Antarctica? Don?
With those temperatures,
Yeah.
you work outside. What do you use for gloves?
We had wool inserts. They were wool gloves with a leather outer glove. That's what we wore.
Not very much for this.
No, I'll tell you, one of the times I had tears in my eyes. There's a picture of me in here taking a fish sample with a poking stick on the bottom of the wing. Down there at Willie Field, we had